I can hear you.
Sounds good. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design educational webinar, which is focused on Naaman Williams Park in Franklin Township, New Jersey. It is an honor to have you all join us here today. My name is Charles T. Brown, and I will be leading today's workshop. I am a senior researcher with the Alan M. Voorhees Transportation Center and part of the adjunct faculty at the Edward J. Blousie School of Planning and Public Policy, both at Rutgers University here in New Brunswick. I am also a CPTED professional. I received the CPTED professional designation in 2019. I am a resident of Somerset, and I serve on the Franklin Township Planning Board. This presentation, as Ann just stated, is being recorded and will be made available later if you must leave early. We hope that you stay with us during the entire 1.5 hours, but we understand if something arises and you have to leave. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you may email the project team by contacting Ann Heasley, who will introduce herself shortly, and we'll be providing her email as well. I would like to begin with a brief overview of today's workshop so you will know what to expect as we engage over the course of the next 1.5 hours. First, I will begin with housekeeping items. Then we will move into project team introductions and participant introductions, the latter of which will happen via the chat function, given how many people are present here today. Then I will provide an overview of the NJTPA Complete Streets Technical Assistance Program, provide an overview of the Naaman Williams Park project, background and purpose, give a high-level overview of first generation, second generation, and third generation CPTED. Again, the goal here today isn't to make you experts in CPTED, but to give you the tools necessary to conduct your own audits. Then we'll go on a photographical site tour of the study area in the park, as well as an overview of recent crash and crime data. During this time, we'll break into small groups to get your general impressions of the study area and park and crash and crime data. Lastly, we'll end with a brief overview of the CPTED audit and site assessment checklist that we would like for you to use moving forward. If there are any immediate questions, please place them in the chat at this time, and I'll be sure to address them. Moving on to sort of housekeeping. Everyone will be muted throughout the entire meeting. However, if you would like to ask a question during the presentation or this workshop, you can use the chat function to send us a written comment or push the raise your hand button and we will call on you. If we do not see your hand or questions right away, please be patient as we'll definitely get to you during the scheduled time for questions. We've built in periodic stops throughout the presentation for Q&A. If you do not have a microphone and want to make a spoken comment, you could use the number that was provided during the registration process. If you do call in, you must turn off your speakers on your computer so that there's no recurring feedback. Now we're going to move into introductions. We're going to start with introductions from the Complete Streets Technical Assistance Project team, which consists of VTC, of which I'm a part of, NJTPA, and Sustainable Jersey. I'm going to call on each member of the team to introduce themselves, but we're going to start first with the project sponsor, who is NJTPA. So Keith and Peter, please kick things off.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you all for joining. I'm glad to see that there's such a good turnout. This is an exciting project for me. The NJTPA, North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, is the sponsor, as Charles indicated. The NJTPA, for those who aren't familiar, is a federally authorized metropolitan planning organization for the region of North Jersey. And that gives us the responsibility to prioritize and allocate federal funding for transportation improvement projects throughout the region. We also conduct our own studies and fund studies such as this, the Crime Prevention Environmental Design Assessment for the Complete Streets Technical Assistance Program. Our board has representation from 13 counties in northern New Jersey, including Somerset County. And we also have seats from the various transportation agencies at the state level. This program, the Complete Streets Technical Assistance Program, is a competitive one. So we reviewed many applications, and Franklin had a successful bid, partly because of, I think, this interest in taking on a crime prevention through environmental design assessment. This is CPTED is an area that I've myself, as part of the NJTPA, overseen the several CPTED projects at this point. So I'm particularly excited to see that we're able to deliver some assistance for the municipality and to try to apply some of these complete streets and CPTED assessment at a local level, because these are kind of building blocks for regional transportation and safety. Charles will go into that a little bit more today, but yeah, I wanted to just give you a quick highlight on that, because this workshop is going to give you not only an overview of CPTED strategies, but how the community can start to build a diverse team that will perform these assessments. You can perform it yourself, and it's all inclusive, and it's sort of puts experts and community members on the same level, speaking the same language. I think it's a really valuable program in that sense. It also has an interesting data-driven approach, as well as the community input-driven. So I think it's a really nice balance, and it's a really interesting way of tackling problems at the community level. So like I said, I'm happy to be a part of it and to hear what you have to say as well, as we put together a CPTED final report for your benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Let's quickly move to Peter, and I'll have the members of the VTC team introduce themselves via chat. But let's move it to Peter.
Good afternoon. This is Peter Bilton. I'm a planner at the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, and I'm assisting Keith with this project. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Let's go to Ann with Sustainable Jersey.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ann Heasley with Sustainable Jersey and helping to coordinate this effort. You've received some emails from me, and you will continue to receive them as we go through the project. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Ann. Now, the members of the VTC team, James, Ashna, Jaja, potentially Lisa, Centrum, and others are introducing themselves through chat. Now, I would like for the workshop participants, people representing Franklin Township, please introduce yourselves via chat by stating your first and last name, your organizational affiliation, the length of your Franklin Township residency, and familiarity with the Naaman Williams Park. Let's see who we have here. Hey, Mark, good to see you. All right. As we, everyone has an opportunity here to put in their name, their organization affiliation, residency, and familiarity, I'll move on to the other parts of the presentation. So why are we here is the question, right? This is the second year of the...
My name is Carl Wright. I'm the councilman in Franklin Township, 4th Ward. And I just want to know, I live 3 blocks away from the park. Thank you,
Carl. It's a pleasure to have you here. And thank you for taking time out of your schedule. We really look forward to hearing your comments and your feedback throughout the presentation, especially when we go into the breakout rooms. So thank you for being here. All right, so why are we here? This is the second year of the NJTPA Complete Streets Technical Assistance Program. Under this program, communities applied for technical assistance to help make their local streets safer. 9 communities received our help last year, and we are working with 8 this year. Last fall, your municipal team, Franklin Township, applied for help in increasing perceived and real personal safety concerns at Naaman Williams Park via a CPTED audit and site assessment. And I'm going to pause briefly here to remind everyone, as well as Ann and the team, to make sure everyone except me is on mute right now so that people are able to hear us. Your application was one of 29 received, and as Keith stated, it was selected due to its strength. Earlier this year, we met with the municipal team to talk about the application and review the study area. The Complete Streets Technical Assistance Program is a collaboration between Sustainable Jersey, VTC at Rutgers University, and the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. This project is funded by NJTPA, and the program is designed to support municipal government efforts to advance complete streets initiatives. If you're not familiar with Complete Streets and CPTED, that's the whole basis of today's presentation, but I'll start with a connection between the two and why that connection and stating that connection is important. So complete streets are streets that are designed for all users, all modes of transportation, and all ability levels. They balance the needs of drivers, pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit riders, emergency responders, and good movements based on the local context. Complete streets are also, though, designed, operated, and maintained with personal safety and the welfare of all users in mind. Therefore, crime prevention through environmental design, or CPTED, may be considered and is encouraged in the design and implementation of complete streets that provide safe, walkable, and livable conditions. You may be wondering, is there evidence to support this connection between complete streets and CPTED, particularly regarding increasing active transportation, physical activity, and the use of parks and open space? The short answer is yes, and here are a few examples of this evidence from the literature review that we conducted. Starting with active transportation, existing research on the relationship between CPTED and walking and biking, which is active transportation, shows that CPTED can be used to reduce crime, fears of crime, and increase overall pedestrian usage of parks and open spaces, as well as streets. Then when it comes to trails, there was a study conducted back in 2007 and other studies as recently as 2019. They examined the design characteristics of 3 urban trails in regards to their usage and identified that CPTED elements such as lighting, location of access points, conditions of facilities, and vegetation density affected real and perceived safety and correlated with trail usage as well. Then when it comes to parks and open space, existing research examining this relationship suggests that the physical layout and design of parks and open spaces aids in minimizing crime, fears of crime, and other perceptions of crime associated with park usage. That's a very important finding, as our focus here is going to be around parks as well as active transportation. And then lastly, community engagement and leadership models. Once we touch on second generation principles of CPTED, you'll see that it provides a working means for residents to actively participate in the CPTED process in order to foster community building, which is important in developing their ability to implement social programming and reinforcing a community's presence in their neighborhood, which is why we've convened this meeting today, which would have been done in person had it not been for COVID-19. So now I want to move on to giving you a brief overview of the project purpose, talking about the study area, and then the tasks that are a part of this project. Starting with project purpose, the goal of CPTED, the CPTED safety audit and site assessment, is to reduce opportunities for crime that may be inherent in the design, operation, and maintenance of Naaman Williams Park and its surrounding areas. While Naaman Williams Park, which is shown here, the borders of it in yellow, is the focal point of this CPTED safety audit and assessment. At the March 31st, 2020 kickoff meeting for this project, Franklin Township staff and police requested the project boundary be expanded to include the area outlined in red on your screen. The request to expand the project boundary was based on a number of factors, including recent and proposed development patterns surrounding the park and along select roadways, reported and anecdotal criminal activity within and outside of the park, vehicular and pedestrian movement and behaviors throughout the entire area, and feedback from residents, businesses, and other stakeholders who stated the ways in which the surrounding areas impact perceptions of safety, realities of safety within and outside the park. And so as such, you can see here, as evident by the red line, that the project study area is bordered by the following streets: Matilda Avenue between Hamilton Street and Ray Street, Ray Street between Matilda Avenue and Juliet Avenue, Juliet Avenue between Ray Street and New Jersey Route 27, New Jersey Route 27 between Juliet Avenue and Franklin Boulevard, Franklin Boulevard between New Jersey Route 27 and Hamilton Street between Franklin Boulevard and Matilda Avenue. The original task when we first envisioned this project included a two-phase CPTED safety audit and site assessment with in-person workshops of more than 10 people at a time and day, as well as a nighttime site assessment. However, due to COVID-19 and the restrictions on public gatherings, our team and Franklin Township staff have agreed to a modified and expanded approach, which includes the following tasks or deliverables. We're going to be producing a background technical memo, which contextualizes the study area in comparison to Franklin Township as a whole, looking at socioeconomic factors, crash factors, crime factors, etc. We agreed to do a CPTED educational webinar, which is what we are doing today. We agreed to a two-phase CPTED audit and site assessment. I'll explain that later, but what that involves is you, the residents, you, staff, and others in CPTED doing your own independent audit of this site. The site could be limited to the park or the entire study area, but then my team going out later doing a separate analysis of the site, but also looking at other factors such as zoning, land use, crash, crime, etc. We're putting together a CPTED community survey that you can distribute to those proximate to the park and within the study area, but also people outside of the study area as well. We're creating a CPTED municipal webpage devoted to this project, which will be the house or the place for all of the materials. And then we're producing a final report complete with recommendations. I would like to pause right now to see if there's any questions, immediate questions from any of you. If you have questions, you can type them in the chat. How long is this project? I'll have my project team respond to that question in the chat in terms of the length of the project. Great question, Benjamin. Will a copy of the presentation be available later? Yes, it will, along with a recording of this presentation and a few other deliverables as well. All right, we have about 1 or 2 more minutes here for other questions. Is the county involved in sponsoring the fixes? I'll have the project team answer that question as well. Great question, Benjamin. All right, now I'm going to move on to the crime prevention through environmental design, CPTED overview. If you have other questions, please type them in the chat. My team or the team at large will certainly answer those questions. So now that you're familiar with Zoom features, the project team, the New Jersey Complete Streets Technical Assistance Program, and have been briefed on the Naaman Williams Park project, now we're going to very quickly give you an overview of first generation, second generation, and the increasingly growing third generation CPTED key concepts and applications. Before we get into it, here are a few points to remember, however. First generation CPTED has been historically more design focused or centered. Remember that first generation has been more design focused or centered, as it is currently defined as the proper design and effective use of the built environment that can lead to a reduction in the fear and incidence of crime and an improvement in the quality of life. Second generation, however, emerged in the 1990s, mainly in response to the criticism that first generation CPTED was very physical form oriented or design oriented and did not address critical social factors. So if first generation was more design focused, second generation focused more on addressing critical social factors and concern. Greg Seville and others back in '98 argued that what is critical to Jane Jacobs' Eyes on the Street approach concept is the quality of those eyes that represent a community of watchers who care and would not allow inappropriate use of a space. And then third generation, which is being developed or currently going through its developing phase, it undertakes a more holistic approach than both first and second generation by looking at safety, livability, and quality of life, extending beyond just the goal of crime reduction. It is based on the assumption that relying on physical and social environmental design alone lacks a strategy to create safe and high quality environments in the long run. So they don't see this as, when it comes to third generation, a quick fix. They see this as something that must take place over time and be sustainable. I would like to start the CPTED presentation, however, in introducing crime prevention, both first, second, and third generation to you with a disclaimer. No CPTED recommendations can positively ensure or guarantee a crime-free environment. It's important that you remember that no CPTED recommendation can positively ensure or guarantee a crime-free environment. So what is CPTED? What is first generation CPTED? First generation CPTED is defined as the proper design and effective use of the built environment that can lead to a reduction in the fear and incidence of crime and improvement in the quality of life. That definition was provided by C. Ray Jeffrey in 1971, and Jane Jacobs, The Eyes on the Street, etc., was all a part of that. CPTED, the goal of CPTED is to reduce opportunities for crime that may be inherent, again, in the design of structures or in the design of neighborhoods. Yes, you can design in crime or design out crime. CPTED is a multidisciplinary approach, though, to deterring criminal behavior. It incorporates principles from a number of different professions: urban planning, architecture, landscape architecture, law enforcement, as well as engineering. The major benefits of CPTED include reductions in crime and the potential for crime, perceived greater safety and security, as well as real improvements in safety and security, improvement and beautification of the physical environment, improvements in the overall quality of life for residents proximate to a particular site or visitors to a particular site, revitalization and preservation of neighborhoods, and then overall increased business activity. The other benefits include more efficient use of city personnel and equipment and crime prevention by giving you database evidence to support how to deploy your city personnel and equipment around crime production. It also, a benefit is city departments working towards a common goal by helping to identify what the biggest need is. And then it leads to increased communication between the city government and the public overall. So at this point, you may be asking, okay, what are some of the principles of first generation CPTED? Well, first generation CPTED is based on these 4 overlapping concepts, and please keep them in mind. Number 1, natural surveillance. Number 2, natural access control. Number 3, territorial reinforcement. Number 4, image maintenance and management. Now what I would like to do is cover each one of these overlapping concepts in more detail, starting with natural surveillance. And hopefully that will answer some of your questions I'm seeing popping up in the chat. So starting with natural surveillance. Natural surveillance is the placement of physical features, activities, and people in a way that maximizes visibility. So it includes designing landscapes that allow clear, unobstructed views of the surrounding areas. Natural surveillance decreases the threat of apprehension by opportunistic criminals or persons looking to harm, injure, or abduct men, women, or children in your community. There is, however, a second disclaimer or point of importance here. Please keep in mind, because there's been criticisms, just criticisms of CPTED in the media lately, but I want you to be aware that CPTED is neutral. It assumes that law enforcement is in no way unjustly using its powers to apprehend or detain or harm residents in any form or fashion. CPTED assumes that law enforcement is not unjustly using its powers to apprehend, harm, or detain any residents. CPTED via natural surveillance also improves visibility with lighting or transparent building materials. It, through natural surveillance, avoids lighting that creates glare or shadows, and it avoids the creation of building entrapment areas. Next, moving on to natural access and control. Natural access control means controlling access to a site. So this could be done by ensuring entrances are visible to pedestrians and others. It could be done by clearly defining entryways and by controlling other points of access to a site. It could be done via highlighting the main entrance to a building, to a park, or to an open space, clearly marking public walkways and paths, and installing a comprehending wayfinding system so that people don't have to guess in terms of where the nearest attractions are. Then there's territorial reinforcement. Territorial reinforcement refers to the development of areas or places where the users feel a strong sense of ownership. The use of physical attributes that, this is an umbrella concept embodying all natural surveillance and access control principles. So territorial reinforcement is the use of physical attributes that express ownership, such as fencing, pavement treatment, signage, and landscaping. Then next we have maintenance or image maintenance and management, which is about properly maintaining and managing a space that indicates active involvement of and guardianship and ownership among legitimate users. Maintenance and management allows for the continued use of a space for its intended purpose. It serves as an additional expression of ownership, and it prevents reduction of visibility from landscaping overgrowth. There are, though, 3 additional first-generation CPTED principles that I would like for you to keep in mind. And of course, we're going to provide you with definitions of all of these via the CPTED site assessment and audit form. So you'll be able to see these later, along with the PowerPoint in this recording. The 3 additional first-generation CPTED principles are, number 1, legitimate activity support, which means activities and uses that encourage legitimate users of a space. There is, before I move on to the target hardening, excuse me, I want to state that when we talk about legitimate activity support and legitimate users, CPTED again is in no way encouraging discrimination against any person within a space. We've had recent incidents such as the incident that took place in Central Park in New York. We've had other incidents across the country where people are stating who are legitimate users of a space. Again, CPTED is not about discrimination in any form or fashion. Then there's targeted hardening, which is about the physical barriers that restrict access to an area. And then lastly, this is a very important one as we show you the crime and the crash data later on in the presentation. Geographical juxtaposition is an area surrounding, is the premise that an area surrounding environment can influence criminal behavior and safety in that space and vice versa. So an area surrounding environment can influence criminal behavior and safety in that space and vice versa. So what are some CPTED strategies? And then we'll move into some Q&A here. In as much as possible, all space should become the clear responsibility of someone, all space. So avoid space which is unassigned. Provide clearly marked transitional zones that indicate movement from public to semi-public to private space. As an example, the sidewalk represents public space. The main path into a residential development and the path branching to the individual units in a particular building case are both semi-public. The interior of the unit is private. Those are the differences between public to semi-public to private. You want to relocate gathering areas to locations of natural surveillance, that is, eyes on the streets, and access control points, as opposed to locations away from the view of would-be offenders. As an example, all children play areas should be located in central common areas of a building or a park or open space, so there's as many eyes as possible to watch the children at play. You want to place safe activities in unsafe locations to create natural surveillance of these activities, thereby increasing the perception of safety for users and of risk for offenders. For example, well-used common areas, those that are considered as safe, may overlook a parking area which is considered unsafe to provide additional security to the parking area. So place these unsafe activities in safe locations to overcome the vulnerability of these activities with this natural access, control, and surveillance of the area. For instance, and we'll get to this with the park, all bathroom facilities, laundry rooms, etc., should not be located in remote corners of any site or at the end of a long anonymous hallway if you're inside of a building. You want to locate these sort of things towards the entry or places in which you can have higher foot traffic. I'm going to pause now to get a sip of water to see if there are any quick questions before you move into briefly covering second and third generation CPTED. If you have a question, please type it into the chat function.
Charles, we had a couple of questions come in a little while ago that we thought maybe you would be able to address. One of them was from Linda Taylor, who asked, how can community members get involved if they're not currently on a committee or part of a group?
How can they currently get involved in reducing crime if they're not part of a group?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Linda was referring specifically to this project or just CPTED stuff in general.
Linda, if you're referring to this project, we will be in contact with you to discuss ways in which community members can be involved. 2 ways quickly they can be involved, or 3 ways. 1, you will be provided, Linda, with a copy of this entire presentation, a recording of it, along with a PDF copy of the presentation. We ask that you please share that with members of the community that could not be here today. Secondly, we're going to be distributing a CPTED site assessment and audit, of which the same members of the community can go out and audit the site and the surrounding study area. Thirdly, we're putting together a community survey to get insight from the community at large about their perceptions of crime in the area. One more question, James, so we can move on to the next section.
Yep, so Stanislav asked, is the reason for crime improper environmental design?
I don't understand. Can you repeat for me?
Is the reason for crime improper environment design?
Great question. So part of the reason for crime, which is part of the reason for, yes, the answer is yes and no, of course. There are reasons for crime that are behavior related that don't always correlate with the design of an environment. But there is this whole notion that the design of environment can serve as a conduit for crime or a barrier for crime. That's why first generation CPTED was focused on design with an attempt to kind of design out crime as it exists, but also to discourage people from wanting to commit crime because you're providing more eyes on the street, more natural surveillance, more care for the site, and then self-policing by the community at large. So the answer to that is yes and no. Thank you for those, James, and we're going to answer all of your questions. All right. We're going to move now into crime prevention through environmental design, which is second generation CPTED. We're moving into second generation CPTED. Second generation CPTED is not a replacement for first generation CPTED. It is focused, however, on community building and involvement to develop the community's self-policing capabilities. You've seen a rise and a push for more safe policing. You can debate the merits of that, but the idea is that the community can come together to self-police as people who are more actively involved in their communities are more likely to respond to an unacceptable activity in their area. Second generation CPTED, which builds upon first generation, is based on 4 key principles. 1, social cohesion. 2, community connectivity. 3, community culture. 4, threshold capacity. So what is safe social cohesion? And I'm going to speed up a bit here so we can get to the site looking at the time. Social cohesion enhances mutual respect and understanding in a community, along with an appreciation for diversity and differences. As a cohesive community is more likely to be able to effectively undertake collective actions. Next, there's community connectivity, which is focused on providing opportunities to strengthen resident relationship. This goes back to the question earlier, building their ability to develop partnerships both within and with external organizations. Then there's community culture, which is about encouraging opportunities for a community to get together in order to foster a sense of belonging and place. Again, getting back to some of these great questions that you all have asked, which could make them want to defend their area and develop a sense of ownership. Then there's threshold capacity, maintaining a balance in use and types of uses in an environment in order to preserve a community's identity and sense of ownership. And then as a last one, inclusivity as a bonus, it ensures that all members of a community feel as stakeholders and participate and contribute to the community activities, fostering this social cohesion, connectivity, and culture. So there it is again, CPTED, second generation, why it's important. Now moving on to third generation, which is one slide devoted to it because this is a growing practice, a growing philosophy now. Third generation CPTED is defined simply as adopting a holistic range of strategies addressing public health, sustainability, environment, and crime in order to construct truly safe and high quality environments. So what I would like for you all to do right now is to type in your questions. At some point, I'm going to come back to James, and then I'm going to answer those questions. But is there any burning questions right now before I take you on a photographic tour of the Naaman Williams Park? Any burning questions?
There's nothing in chat, and I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So let's move on to the next part. Now I'd like to focus on the study area and Naaman Williams Park. We will begin with a counterclockwise photographical site visit of the park, as well as visit key transportation intersections or corridors outside the park, but within the study area. We'll then take a look at recent crime and crash data within the study area, followed by 2 breakout discussions to discuss general reactions to the park, the study area, and the crash and crime data. We will end with an overview of the CPTED audit and the site assessment form, which we would like for you to take and share with all members of Franklin Township, followed by key next steps. Let's begin the photographic site tour or site visit of Naaman Williams Park. Here's the map again of Naaman Williams Park in the study area. This photographical tour will begin where my cursor is currently on the screen. You can see it here. Let me go back. We will start here and take you on a counterclockwise walk around the park. So follow my cursor. So again, we'll start here and we'll take you on a counterclockwise walk of the park. Then we'll also take you to quickly look at some of the nearby streets, and you'll understand why I'm taking you to look at the streets here shortly. Please keep in mind the pictures you're about to see were taken by members of the team. They were not taken with anything strategic in mind, not to disparage the park in any way. We simply walked the park and took pictures. Ironically, it was also a wet and a cloudy day when we went out, though I do see some sunshine out my window right now. COVID-19 rules, in case you're wondering, and once you see the pictures of the site, rules and regulations at the time were in order. When we visited the park on a Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember, but the two of us, Keith and I, we did maintain social distancing the entire time, along with wearing masks. And this was early on in the process. So starting here again, here's the sort of parking lot area, which is to the right. And you can see people are playing sort of tennis, racquetball up against the wall there on the left. As you move around the park, here's a view of the basketball court, which at the time had a sign stated that no one could use it. Here's a view of the baseball field, which again, as you can see, the sign stated that it was closed. I do, however, want you to focus on these young men here. I say young, they were young to middle-aged men who were using the pull-up bars as Keith and I were maneuvering throughout the site. I identify first as a street level researcher, so it was important for me to have a conversation with them. And we discussed or asked questions about the perception of the park. They stated that they are residents, they come to the park all the time, and they have no issues in terms of crime in the park. They stated that though if we had asked that question many years ago, their responses would have been much different, as they sort of pointed to some sort of gunshots and other things that took place in the park. But they themselves did not feel unsafe walking to the park, nor did they feel unsafe with their children participating in the park. But again, they stated if you had asked that question a year or two ago, their responses would have been different. Then this is the area near the senior facility. It is well landscaped. However, from a crime standpoint, think about how someone like myself could easily jump out and attack someone here. So that's an area for discussion. Then this is the playground area, which again was closed at the time, evident by the fencing here. We move on around the park. Here's the bench. We did see a lot of littering in the park, which is a concern in regards to image maintenance and management. Here's also a seating area near the pool area. That's here, which is not a pool, but I'm messing up my words here, but a water splash park. Here is the garden, the community garden, which if you're looking in the top right-hand corner, you can see my cursor here. The community garden is located here near the parking lot area. Then as we move along in the park, we're somewhere in here. Here's another bench. Here's also a trash can provided for people to dump their trash there. However, you can note behind this area that there's a lot happening in the woods here. Keith and I did venture into the woods, and we saw what looked to be like illegal activity happening within this area. A lot of littering, a lot of concerns about what may be taking place in this area. We continue on. As you can see here, there's significant flooding in the park. It was a rainy day. It wasn't raining that day, but I think it had rained prior to, of course. Here's some other areas as we make our way around. Here's the newly installed or newer installed children's play area. Very beautiful area. It was also closed at the time. Here's the path as you approach the home, which is located at the end of a street near the park, which is what you can see here. And we're back to the parking lot area. Here is the public restroom area. Here's a marker talking about the Naaman Williams Memorial Park. And now we're back to the place where we started. What I would like to do now is quickly show you some side streets so you can get a sense of those streets. But you know what? Yes, I'll still do that. Let me go to those really quickly for you. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat. Give me 1 second. And yeah. All right. So everyone should be able to see my screen here. If you can't, let me know. Here is the park again. So what I would like to do is quickly show you some key streets that we're gonna focus on. One is the intersection of Franklin Boulevard and Route 27. Here is a view of that street. Please keep this location in mind as we move into the breakouts. Next, I'm going to go down the street here to show you the intersection of Hamilton and the street. Let's go. Let me move this out of the way so we can quickly do that. All right, next intersection is going to be here at Hamilton Street and Franklin Boulevard. This is an intersection that I would like to focus your attention on as well. This is near the Subway, the Foot Locker, the KFC, and the Exxon gas station. Next, we're going to quickly move to Matilda Avenue. Now let's go to Mark Street first, which is right adjacent to the park. This is the street immediately adjacent to the park, which is a very beautiful street here. Let's move up, go to Park Street, which is the entrance to the senior facility. This is Park Street. And then lastly, let's go near the Wawa, which is another important street or intersection, which is located here. Let me bring that back up. So this is an apartment complex at Quinton Avenue, Route 27. This is the new Wawa, one of the new Wawas on Route 27. This is a private business, and moving in this direction takes you into New Brunswick. All right, now that we've done that, I want to take you back to, give me a second here, the remainder of the meeting. We're going to now move into breakout rooms. I see some questions about crime stats. I want to let you know that I've strategically decided not to show you the crime or the crash stats just yet. What we want you to do for 10 minutes, we're going to randomly assign you to breakout rooms. We want you to self-police, self-manage yourself within these breakout rooms, but we want you to keep the conversation brief, and we do not want anyone dominating the discussion. What I would like for you all to do when we send you into these breakout rooms is to assign at least one person to come on camera and to report out. When you report out, we want you to keep your conversations brief, because we're going to go back into the breakout rooms after you all have an opportunity to see the crash and crime data. So here are the questions that you are going to answer. Anne is going to type these questions into the chat for your reference as well, but if you can, please try to remember these. In short, what is your gut reaction to the park based on the photos that I showed you or your experiences with the park? How comfortable does the park make you feel? And what makes you feel this way? Also, what is your overall reaction to the streets within the study area, and what makes you feel this way? So Anne, now please quickly randomly assign everyone to breakout rooms. We're gonna give you a 1-minute warning within those breakout rooms. So I'll see you back here in 10 minutes. Thank you.
on this phone.
And you could see and hear me, right?
Yes, I
Yes,
can.
I can.
Okay. Let me bring back up the presentation here. All right, so what I want to do, and you can see the slides, right?
Correct.
All right, so let me end it.
And we got a bunch of people joining us.
Okay. Everyone, what I would like for you to do for the sake of time is I would like for you to type in your concerns and your reactions to what you heard so we could capture those in the chat. Please do that for me.
So everyone should have just rejoined right now. So you might want to repeat that instruction. I don't think everyone heard that.
All right, so everyone, please do us a favor. For the sake of time, we don't want to, we're not gonna have an opportunity to get each team to report back. So what I would like for you to do is report back using the chat function. So please type in any and all concerns that you may have. As you're doing that, what I'm gonna do now is move into the crash and crime overview. And you could see everything, right?
I can see everything with the notes too.
Okay.
There you go. Now it's
okay, excellent. All right, I'll be able to move it here in a second. You can still see or not?
I can see the full.
Excellent. All right, here we go. Here we go.
I see your notes too still.
All
there
right,
you go.
So here's the overview, a quick overview of the crime data in Franklin Township as it relates to the study area. So what you see on the screen right here is the crash rate per 1,000 persons from 2008 to 2020. The study area is highlighted in red. In short, what you see here is that the study area, the crime rate has been declining overall over the course of all 3 years. 2020 data, I want to state here, is not fully complete, but even with crime declining or the crime rate declining throughout the township, the rate per 1,000 persons is still highest within the study area or approximate to the study area. Here's the total crime rate per 1,000 people from 2018 to 2020 for the entire township again. The study area is outlined in red, and as you could see, the crime rate per 1,000 person is higher within the study area and proximate to it. Here's a map of crime clustering throughout the entire township. The study area is shown in blue. The larger the circle, the higher the concentration of crime, and that's all crime within a general area. And as you can see here, based on these dots, that there are large dots located outside the study area, but again, the larger dots are located proximate to the study area. Here is a similar map, but instead of now focusing on crime, this one shows you crash data, and I'll explain why that's important shortly. But the larger the dot, the higher the number of total crashes throughout an area. Remember, we're talking about complete streets as well as CPTED here. And as you can see, the larger dots are shown along Eastern Avenue, which is to be expected. But there are also large amounts of crashes being shown near the study area, which is outlined in blue. Now moving on, here's a combination of combining crash and crime data together to give you a sense of where the hot spots in the township are. And so when we talk about a strategic approach to addressing crime in the area and how to best use our resources for law enforcement, this sort of didactic approach to criminality leads you to where you could focus your resources the most. So the areas that are Shown here, highlighted in purple, are the hot spots for which both crime and crashes are taking place. Really quickly, here's a look at the crime frequency by category in Franklin Township versus the study area. On the left is a multi-layered pie chart of crime frequency by category in Franklin Township. On the right is the same, but in the study area. In short, what you see here, looking at the blue, the violent crime in 2020 is higher in the study area than it is in the township. However, in the prior 2 years, or the previous 2 years, it was lowest. So you see higher violent crime in 2020 in the study area versus the township. It is not that much greater. It's 26% versus 29%. Excuse me. Here's crime by category in Franklin Township versus the study area. Again, Franklin Township is on the left and the study area is on the right. What we see here in the study area are higher cases or higher reportings that are disturbance calls, 41%, versus only 20% in the township. You see higher percentage of gunshots in the study area. I think it is 4% versus 2%. And let me move my photo here. And you also see higher amounts of property crime in the township than you see in the study area as a whole. So there are different types of crimes that are more prevalent in the township than they are in the study area. Here are the criminal incidents from 2018 to 2020. Franklin Township as a whole is on the left, and the study area is on the right. So basically what you see is that crime incidents, criminal incidents have been declining by year in the township as well as within the study area. But please keep in mind that 2020 data is not yet complete. So here again is looking now at crime just in the study area. So again, the number of criminal incidents are based on, the higher the number of criminal incidents, the larger the circles that you see. So you see crime around the near Wawa, the new Wawa, somewhat of a larger bubble near Parkside, which is the senior facility. You see many bubbles here along Hamilton Street, and some as you approach Somerset and Franklin Street there. Here is crash data. You see that crash is concentrated towards the left-hand side of the screen and along Route 27, which is to be expected, as well as along Hamilton Street, which is to be expected, because that's where you see the greatest amount of traffic. What is notable, however, is that you don't see many crash points around the park, neither when it comes to crime or when it comes to crash. But we didn't want to stop there. Again, this is about showing you where the hot spots are. So what we did was we did the didactic approach of looking at crash and crime combined in the study areas. And here are your hot spots. Your hot spots are near Hamilton Street, Somerset and Franklin, near the new Wawa, near the area of Irving Street and High Street. Irving is near the Aldi or the Aldi. There's activity near the Dunkin' Donuts and the NJ Transit bus terminal. I think that's NJ Transit. There's some activity near Matilda Avenue in Hamilton, as well as Chester Avenue and Hamilton Street. So you could see here, based on this map, these are where the hot spots are in terms of the data. So, and instead of moving into a breakout room, what I'm gonna do now is take 5 minutes and allow some of the residents, 1 or 2 of the residents, to kind of quickly give some of their reactions to what they've heard thus far. I would like to hear from 1 resident, someone from the city, and potentially someone from the county. Let's keep it to 3 people. Let's keep it short so that we could show you the CPTED site assessment audit checklist and then end the workshop. So who would like to go first? Someone from the community that is not a city or township staff person or someone from the county. Any community person, please speak up. Gut reactions.
I'm a community person. I'm Carl Wright.
All right, Carl, let's hear from you.
Yeah. Are you gonna be over there for a while?
All right, Carl, it sounds like we have some background noise there. Any others, unless Carl can reduce the background noise?
I got rid of my noise. I'm
All
driving.
right, Carl. All right, let's hear it, Carl. Quickly for me now.
I'm sorry. Say that again, please.
Please give us your gut reactions quickly.
My gut reaction is that looking at the crime data, if I can solve the crime data in the area, I'm looking good. I definitely need barriers on that wooded side that will stop the crime from coming in. And actually, I ride my bike there every evening, 6 to 7 o'clock, sometimes 8 o'clock. The only thing that I see are members, not people who are not members of the community hanging out at the gazebo, which is right underneath the senior citizens complex. So more lights out there, as the gentleman just said, would definitely solve the problem. Ms. Alsa Sipowicz is working on that. Vince Dominic is working that way. So as a member of the land use committee, that's something that we'll take back and discuss with Mark Healy.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you for that. Let me have someone from the township respond, someone that works for the township. Give us your gut reactions. Try to keep it to 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes for me. Thank you.
This is Mark Healy. What I can do is summarize the input we had in our small breakout, which was basically that, you know, although the park certainly has serves a lot of purpose in terms of recreation and community groups use it for their events, I think that the overall gut reaction was that it could be better integrated into the surrounding community, physically and otherwise, you know, more of a focus of the surrounding community, more than just its recreation purpose.
Excellent, Mark. Anyone else from the township? Mark saved you a minute or two to speak. Anyone else from the township?
Hi, this is Safi Callan. I think that generally in our breakout group and also with general sentiment around the park, there's some anecdotal evidence of people saying that they felt that it was unsafe. None of the members in my breakout group, in particular for them, it felt unsafe. But I think the park struggles with things that have happened in the past there. I've always believed that if we program more at the site, more people have ownership of what goes on there. Usually the gazebo that people are referring to throughout that has a lot of people that are loitering there is a gazebo that's really not used during programming. So that may lead to it. It's a idle hands kind of thing.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Let's now hold on, and let's move to the county. Anyone from the county would like to add any input? Walter.
Thank you. I think my gut reaction is very similar to what everyone else had just previously stated. I think how the park is in a very dense area of the township and how it could be better integrated into the fabric of the community, I think is one of the issues that I've heard throughout this discussion. And then, you know, obviously the roadways around there's several major travel ways of Franklin Boulevard and 27. So the accident, you know, the crash data doesn't really surprise me that much. But just really how to continue to make those streets more pedestrian and bicycle friendly will then, in theory, increase better, you know, improve access to the park. So, and to the programming aspect, I think any opportunities for creative placemaking type of activities where the community can feel more engaged, feel more ownership of the park, I think will help to dispel maybe some of the perceptions of the park and increase usage of it.
That is excellent feedback from members of the township, the county, as well as the community. And you had a comment or a question?
Ainsley Reynolds had raised a hand and I didn't.
Excellent. Let's move to Mr. or Mrs. Reynolds, I didn't hear the first name. Ansley Reynolds, what are your comments, feedback for us?
Oops.
It's Mr. Reynolds.
Mr. Reynolds, please.
I mean, I don't want to repeat what has already been spoken. I think Mr. Walter Lane, because we were in the same breakout group, pretty much explained what we discussed. Again, it's just a perception. You know, me personally, I don't have an issue with it, but again, talked about my wife does not like to drive by the park at night. It really, I think, is the issue is at night, because during the day, it's like any other park. However, I would say that I think looking at the other parks that I've been through in town, I've been living here for 17 years, seems to be a little more neglected and has it does not have the same reputation as these other parks. I don't know exactly what you do. You know, the first thing that comes to mind, you would say better patrol or what have you. But as we already know what's going on in the community, I don't know if that necessarily will be the right answer. More of the community take more of a hand in making sure that this park is more family friendly, and probably redesign, you know, some of the different locations of activities, kids away from the basketball court, as we discussed, may help in that.
Excellent. Thank you all for that. Great input. Also, please continue to type any and all input that you have in the group chat function. Because this is being recorded, we'll be able to easily document your concerns using that and have a transcript of it, of which we can provide to all of you that are participating. So any and all comments are welcome there. For the sake of time, what I'm going to do now is talk about really quickly the CPTED audit and site assessment checklist. Let's take a look at that if we can. So I'm pulling up this form. We're gonna, and can you see the form? Give me confirmation or not?
Not yet.
Okay. So instead of showing the form, what I'm gonna do right now is let you all know that we've put together a site assessment checklist for your consideration. And this form, which you are gonna have via a PDF as well as a Google Doc form, is gonna give you the tools you need to properly go out and do an assessment of the site. And can you see it now?
Yep, I can see it now.
All right.
So there you go.
Right. So present on your screen is the Google form. This Google CPTED audit and site assessment form walks you through the process. It starts with why conduct a site assessment. It looks into what is a site assessment and what is a safety audit. It talks about how to prepare. And lastly, it walks you through safety through other I's, and then it covers the first generation principles of CPTED. So following this call, each of you will receive a link to that form, as well as a PDF copy if you would like it. And if you have any questions, this is being recorded. That will be provided to you. But I would like to save the last 3 minutes here to answer any questions anyone else may have, and to give the floor to Ann to kind of close us out. I was going to take back 5 minutes from you guys because we waited 5 minutes for you all to get here, but I'm ex-military and I strongly believe in starting and ending on time. So Ann, any closing comments before we wrap up?
Just briefly, as Charles mentioned, I'll be sending you an email in the next couple of days that will give you a link to the presentation, to the PDFs that we talked about, as well as the online form. And we're looking for you to provide those comments back to us by August 20th so we can process that information. And then towards the end of August, you can expect to get information from us about a community survey that Charles mentioned. And that will be open for everyone, and it will give us an understanding of the usage and more information on people's perceptions of the park. And then towards the early part of October, we will convene another meeting like this one, a little bit shorter, just to summarize the information that we have heard from you today, as well as the comments that we received through this survey, as well as the audit forms, and present some of the early recommendations for your input and consideration. So that's sort of the timeline and the next steps for the project.
And Anne, I would like to, you all have done an amazing job, Franklin Township, today being here, going through a photographic site tour of the site, seeing some data that you are aware of and many of you are not aware of or may be aware of anecdotally. We really appreciate you being here. As a resident of Franklin Township in Somerset, I encourage you to please share the video as widely as possible along with the community survey. We want to hear from everyone, not only those who are within the study area, but those outside the study area as well, because it matters to us what the overwhelming majority of thoughts and opinions are of this park. And it's going to help with image maintenance, management, and branding of the park moving forward. So please share with all your networks so we can ensure that the community has been notified and have been active participants in this process, which is a value of ours. Thank you, Anne. So would anyone like to have the last word before we give you back your day?
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And you can officially close now. We thank you all and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.